Welcome to Investories, a podcast about real stories, real estate, and taking real action. Join hosts John Hooper and Kyle Robertson as they talk investing, mindset, and taking that first step. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.
Booyah!
Booyah!
Booyah. I think we need like a noise or something, like an air horn.
Like explosions, like on a used car commercial or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what we should be like, the used car commercial guys. Anyway, welcome.
Let's not do that. Yeah.
Welcome to the Investories Podcast with me, John Hooper, your host, and
Kyle Robertson, co-host.
Co-host. And then we need like a swoosh set. Yeah, we can take that off our production issues, right? So
yeah, right.
Kyle, how's it going? How's your week?
It's pretty good. It's not too bad. I was been dealing with some tenant issues, which I only have one that I self-manage, and it's a commercial property. So we're dealing with some insurance things, like some surprises that we found during some repairs that we were doing that they didn't tell us about, and so we're dealing with some things. So, which is the life of a landlord, I guess. But on the personal side, everything's great. We went to the county fair last night and saw Clint Black.
Cool.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if you know Clint Black, a country music singer from the '90s, and that brought back memories of being a little kid. So I took my kids with me, and it was an awesome concert.
What did you eat?
Oh, geez, we had deep fried hot dogs, which I think kind of all fried hot dogs, right? And more beer than what I'd care to admit. It was we met a lot of buddies there. Of course, it's Oregon, which is like the microbrew capital of the world. So we had lots of that stuff there too. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. They did a rodeo, like a short rodeo, on the rodeo tour. So yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun.
I really want to go to the rodeo.
Have you never been to a rodeo?
No, I really want to go to professional bull riding.
Oh man, it's insane. Yeah, these guys are bigger men than I am. There's no way I'm getting on the back of some giant bucking box of bones and muscle. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, you can own a bull and enter it into the professional bull rodeo thing.
No, maybe that's how you should go to your first one, is go buy a bull and enter yourself. Yeah, you'd be good.
It's that simple.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much what I did for most of the week. I didn't do anything else that was super special, just kind of plugging along. What about you?
Not too much, actually. Just kind of hanging out and trying to do some mindset stuff and mindset work, that kind of stuff, which is pretty much spot on in terms of what we're talking about today, right? This week's been a funny one. It's I decided 2 weeks ago to reprioritize everything, but really, like, when you don't work out for a while, you go, oh, I'll do it later, I'll go for a run later. Yes. And I kind of got like that over a couple of weeks. I was like, wait, why do I feel so doughy?
Yeah, no, I feel you on that 100%. And like, I think over the last 2 years, one day I woke up and I think everybody goes through this, especially when they're, get to our age, around the 40 mark, and you start thinking, all right, I'm not getting any prettier. I'm getting older, and I'm having health issues. And so a couple of years ago, I finally sat down. I was like, you know what? I need to make something change, and started going to the gym, and I wouldn't let myself stop. And I'm starting to I'm kind of hitting that wall. I think probably the same as you are, where it's the scheduling thing and the motivation thing. Once something becomes so routine, it's easy to kind of let that fall by the wayside, even though routines are what's supposed to keep you doing it. Sometimes you kind of lose that passion for it. And I've been there. Have you experienced that at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think for me, I like novelty. And so routine becomes challenging. But what I really like is like a game, like gamification. And that's kind of what I kind of reset a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know if you've heard of Trello. Trello is like, you can build boards. It's from project management. You can manage projects, and you can kind of move cards through a system. So you could use it to project manage your day. So you can say, wake up, meditate, right? Meditate is number one. Okay, so when do I want to do that? And you can build out your board. So that's what I did. I built out a pre-breakfast, breakfast to lunchtime, and post lunchtime, because those are really my busy periods of activity. When can I slot tasks in that I want to do? what tasks repeat that I want to keep feeding back into that loop, and then what do I need to do later on in the week that I can kind of keep dragging into my day. So I started this with a notes file on my phone, and I just write done next to the things that I did. Which
Right.
is kind of, it works.
Yeah.
I kind of miss it, the simplicity of it. What I found is, like, I don't know if you find this. I'm a serial procrastinator. So if I have a to-do list without any form of order, or like, you should do this first, and this goes in a lot to the kind of the, what's the best way to say it? That kind of thing of like, oh, I need to focus on one thing. I need to focus on that one task to get a task done. There's a school of thought that you should just raise a focus on that. Ignore your emails, ignore Facebook, ignore everything first thing, and get that one task done. Otherwise, if I look at a list kind of holistically, I just don't do it. I'm just like, yeah, I need to do all this stuff, but it just looks so massive. So drilling into that list is kind of the key, and doing that the night before, I found, is the key. So my process now is to the previous day order my list, and that includes weekends. So like, what do I need to do this weekend? Fun stuff and, challenging stuff. And then moving into the next day, like, how do I want to order those tasks realistically? What do those hours break down? Obviously you get fire drills with tenants and all that kind of stuff, but kind of just keeping that momentum, keeping that North Star going is kind of interesting. It's become like it's become a game. It's become like a challenge for me to do. Do you use it? Do you use anything like that, or
not like that? But I do use something. I use something. It's very non-techy, I guess is the best way to put it. I've talked about my whiteboard obsession on the show plenty of times.
There you go. Yeah.
And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 whiteboards on the office, or on my walls in my office, and they each serve a different purpose. And one of them is it's a priorities list. And so on that, anytime something pops up throughout my day, I'm like, oh shit, I got to get this done. I'll put it on the list, and then usually like an expiration date next to it, which makes me a serial procrastinator, because then I don't get it done until that day. But I try to prioritize them from most important to least important, or time sensitive, I'll prioritize them that way. And then what I started doing when I was finding myself doing exactly what you were talking about is I would take one of those that becomes the focus task, and I would just write it by itself with no other words on a different whiteboard. And it's in big letters, and it's right there. I know I can't move on to the rest of that list until I can erase this one from my action board. This is the action board. This is the priorities board, like the list. And over here is the action board. And that kind of gives me that, I guess, that hyper focus on that one item. It's just, I'm not the techie guy that uses apps and all that kind of stuff. I would rather just, the thing is my phone, it's got a million different things on it. And the difference is my whiteboard only has one thing on it. Not only that, it's sitting on the wall staring at me all day long, right there. If I'm at my office, I can't get away from that. So I know it's there. So it always stays at the front of my mind. And it's helped. It's helped a lot. I think when we have so many things going on our phones, that it's really easy for this stuff to get buried. And so setting alarms, like, using your calendar app is one thing that I do for pretty much everything. I have a shared calendar with my wife on there. So she knows what I'm doing. If I've got an appointment at, 30 minutes away in a different city, that she knows I'm not in town for that, which has really helped a lot too. But I'm with you on that. I think that's the business stuff. The personal life stuff is the stuff that I've really struggled with the most. You're way better, or at least I believe that you're way better at that than I am. I don't schedule things. The only thing I schedule is my workout time. It's 8 a.m. every single day without fail, except weekends. I don't work out on Saturdays and Sundays, but Monday through Friday, I'm at the gym at 8 a.m. every single time. And that's the only thing that's really become, a real, I guess, habit for me, a good habit. And I've kind of been falling by the wayside. I only went 3 times this week, and here it is Friday. So I feel you on that.
I love that. I love that, because that like, you speak to a lot of people and say, I worked out 3 times this week. That would be like, holy crap, you worked out 3 times. That's a ton, right?
Right.
So this is what I found interesting. So what I was doing, I was doing this before. I was prioritizing what I needed to do in a day, trying not to procrastinate, trying to drill into a list of stuff I need to achieve. Then the kind of negotiables, or the things you could put off, the things that weren't a red blinking light on the front of a cockpit, like as you head towards a mountain, like workout, was really easy to just push.
Yeah.
And so just by structuring it and making it a non-negotiable and making it a challenge, the other addition to that is getting a Apple Watch. This is like just any form of fitness tracker that you have to keep beating your high score. Again, gamification, right? Like, I don't play video games anymore. I used to love video games. Now I don't have time, but now I'm like, oh yeah, this is a video game. Like, life is my video game. I need to go and walk today. So today I went to pick up lunch and I walked there. So
That's
a mile
awesome.
and a half away.
Yeah.
This morning I did yoga and a workout, but that feeds into the other piece of structuring my day, which is if like make goals or make time that is achievable.
Yeah.
So like a 45-minute yoga session just before like deep work time for me isn't probably going to happen. I'll kick it and say, oh yeah, I'll do that a little bit further down the line. 15 minutes, no problem. So I'm warmed up, I'm stretched, that kind of stuff. So it's just become really interesting, these kind of, I guess we could call it put-offables. So things you can easily put off, and I'll do it later or tomorrow. And I think the other thing is then just the workout piece. So like yesterday I went for a walk. It was 96 degrees and I still went. And I was walking and I was dehydrated. So I was trying to drink water. And I was like, God, maybe I should just turn back. And then this is the other killer thing that I picked up in the last couple of weeks. And I think it's attributed to Jocko. And I heard it on an Alex Hormozi podcast, if you know who Alex Hormozi is, which is, this is what hard feels like.
Mm.
And I had that snap realization that we're all driven to be comfortable, and actually making it difficult and making things hard for yourself in a positive sense, right? Not just getting in your own way, but actually taking on hard challenges, figuring out problems, going through the emotion and putting it on the line when you work out. It's become like a mantra in my head. So I did a couple of days ago, I did a 45-minute yoga workout, and it's to the point where I'm like in a stretch and I'm like, could I stretch harder? Could I make this? Now, I guess there's a balance there, right? So if you're running and you're about to keel over.
Yeah. But I mean, you're talking about meeting your potential though, it's one thing. The hardest part's showing up to the gym, right? Or the hardest part's walking out your door. That first couple steps is the hardest part about any kind of a workout. But at some point when you finally not really master, but get better at that part of taking that first step out the door, then you hit that part where you're like, okay, well, I can do this, but can I do this? And that's when real growth starts, is when you start thinking, all right, I'm going to challenge myself a little bit and see if I can do a little bit better. And it doesn't feel like you're going to do that at first. Just the big challenge is just walking outside, and that's the hardest part for a lot of people, why so many people don't get started on, doing exercise. And also it feels daunting, like super, super daunting. But there's so many different things you can do to entertain yourself. Walking is pretty easy for most people, even very large or just very out of shape people or elderly people, you use walkers, whatever you got to do just to get out there and get your body moving and get the blood flowing again. But you can do things to entertain yourself while you're doing it. Most of us have some sort of headphones, throw it in and listen to a podcast, some murder mystery or whatever. I personally like to
Investories.
listen. Or especially Investories. I personally like to listen to Investories when I'm walking.
You want to hear your own voice?
I don't like hearing my own voice. In fact, I've listened to very few of our own shows.
Yeah, same.
I skim through pretty much every one of them, but I can't sit back and listen to them. But that's beside the point. I listen to history podcasts and nerdy stuff whenever I'm out walking, because number one, I get to be alone, which in a house of 5 people never happens. So that's my opportunity to get out and just do something. It's just recreation. You don't even have to think about it necessarily as, oh God, I have to go work out. Go do some recreational time. Go do some me time. Just think of it that way. It's a mindset thing. It's a shift. Everybody can get out and do this who's mobile. You can get out there and do this. And I look at things like, we talk about mindset pretty often on here. Things like mindset podcasts, YouTube shows, whatever it is that you listen to, that is I think of it like my own medication. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Same as, let food be your medication, let medication be your food. It's the same thing with mindset training, because I have gone through periods of my life where it's like, you just feel like everything sucks. Nothing's going right. It's like, I can't find deals to buy. Taxes are due. It's like, we had a meeting with our CPA a while back, and we started talking about, okay, well, we're going to do cost segregation on this one. We're going to depreciate these properties. And I'm sitting here thinking, holy shit, how am I ever going to be able to offset all of this recapture that I'm going to be facing if I need to sell a property? I'm not going to make anything. I'm going to have no equity left in this thing. And which is, true to a degree, but it got me thinking, okay, well, maybe I am still in growth mode, and I haven't gotten to that point where my income is so high that it doesn't matter if I have to pay a whole bunch of recapture taxes. I'm fine. And so that tells me, it kind of helped bring me back to and centered me and let me know, look, I still got work to do. And so I throw on the headphones and I go back to the mindset training, and I go on my walk, or I go on my run, or I go to the gym or whatever. And it's two birds with one stone by doing that. It's just, it really is just taking that first step is easily the toughest part.
And I think that's the case with kind of real estate education, or kind of or getting started, right? I think that the first thing I wanted to ask you about, though, is I say all this this kind of planning and building your day, and I appreciate I have that flexibility in my day, so it's not easy for everyone. My challenge is always, could you get up slightly earlier and work out or read or all that kind of stuff, and that's super interesting. I think, I guess my question to you is, having completed 75 hard, I mean, that's next level. Is there kind of, I guess, mental fortitude, or is there something that's come out of that process that you can kind of tap into?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what 75 hard is, it's a program, and I don't have the information right in front of me, so I'll probably butcher it, but it's 75 days. You have to pick a workout, you have to pick a diet, and you have to stick to both of those. There's no alcohol involved. You got to drink a gallon of water every day, take a progress picture. What am I missing? I think there's a couple of other things too. And I can't remember what they are, but it's a very stringent thing, but there's nobody watching you. Right. So I would recommend, if you decide to do this, to do it with a partner, so you have accountability. There's an app for it where every time you finish one of your daily tasks, you check the little checkbox. And at the end of the day, when you check the last one, whatever it may be, it says, congratulations, you finished day 12 or whatever. And then the next day, that's all the app is. It's super simple. It's more of a mindset program than it is anything else. The side effect of this mindset program is you get in shape and you get tone, you learn things. I learned so much about nutrition by doing this because I was forced to. I didn't know much about, the different ways that macros and calories and things are calculated, but I finally learned all that stuff, and because of this program, and it was amazing. And I think when you have nobody looking over you, and I mean, there is accountability there just by, talking to a friend that's doing it with you, but it's easy to cheat. Anybody can do this and cheat and say, oh, I finished 75 hard. When in fact, oh crap, I actually didn't take my progress picture back on day 35. So I should actually be on day 35, because I would have had to start over again. But, it teaches you that you can't run from yourself, and it really does. It holds you accountable to yourself, because there's such what's the word I'm looking for? Like a die-hard group of people that do this. And I recommend joining some of the groups on, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever for 75 hard, because they will also help keep you accountable. If you have questions like, oh crap, I ate a Jolly Rancher, does that mean I failed the program and I'm back to day one again? Those sorts of things are all answered in those groups. But I think what came out of it is the feeling of accomplishment is probably the biggest piece of 75 hard. And once you finish that and you realize just how difficult this program really is, you really do feel like there's not much you can't do. And not only that, but you feel like shit when you're off of it. You're just like, I just went 75 days on a stringent, 2 workouts a day. That was another one, big one. 2 workouts a day. And all of a sudden, day 76 gets here and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to keep working out. I'm going to keep eating healthy. I'm not going to drink a whole gallon of water, because that's unnecessary. That's more just the challenge, and so at day 76, you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to do something. I need to do more. And you just want to keep going. A lot of people do. They make this their lifestyle now and they don't stop. And it's, for me, it bleeds over to other aspects of my life where it's like, I can't run from myself. I can't not do this super important task because then I have to lay down at night and I don't know who's listening to this podcast who enjoys laying awake thinking, oh crap, did I get this done? Oh crap, did I get this done? This really does help you to focus your brain on the things that are the most important and make sure you check your boxes.
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of my next point, which is, and I'm guilty of this. It's the procrastination, and then it leads to lack of action, lack of follow through.
Yeah.
And then excuses kind of set in of like, oh well, I will just do this down the line. I know I use kind of working out as a as a crutch or an excuse or a example, but it goes from having a call list and calling brokers. For me, it's like I hate calling people often, especially cold calling. I'm cool when I know people. So breaking that kind of initial seal to then phone people up and go, hey, introducing myself. Once you get one in, it's fine, and kind of that stuff. So then you get into the tailspin of like, well, I need to track this, so I probably need a CRM. And what over-engineered CRM? You know what I did for a CRM? I built a Google Doc spreadsheet.
Perfect. That's all you need.
Right, with name, property. Last time I spoke to them, basically, yeah. It's like, what am I doing here? And again, so I think I've talked about on this podcast before. One of the books that kind of ignited my drive into even starting this podcast, but really real estate, everything else like that, was really was the Jocko book, Extreme Ownership, and like factoring in the kind of leadership piece, and if not you, then who, and various other learnings around that. There's a book by Tim Grover, who was Michael Jordan's trainer, about like how Michael Jordan's different to other NBA players. Other NBA players are incredible, but people like Michael Jordan have this different vibe.
They're elite.
Yeah, they're the elite of the elite, and they want everyone to know it by their actions, not by telling everyone, that kind of stuff. So that's been really interesting. And again, it all feeds into that mantra of like, this is what hard feels. This is what difficult feels like. This is what uncomfortable feels like. And it's been really interesting.
I think it's important, think back to anybody listening, just think back to the last time you accomplished something that was difficult. I mean, it's an amazing feeling, right? It's euphoria. It's like, holy crap, I just did that, right? Wouldn't that be great if we could figure out how to experience that every day of our lives? I haven't figured out how to do it, but that's kind of what we should be striving for. And I think that's why I go to the gym. I think that's why I invest in real estate. I think that's why I look for more cash flow and ways to build wealth, is because I'm looking for that feeling. You just accomplish one or two really big things and it can really turn into a major snowball effect. And when you don't accomplish anything, and I know this firsthand, especially for a long period of time, the snowball unravels. It's more like a ball of yarn, start going downhill. By the time you get to the bottom, there's not much left of you. And that's what rock bottom feels like. And it's such an awful, awful feeling. And so what type of fuel do you need in your life to keep that momentum uphill going? And that's what I struggle with that every day. I'm struggling with it now, trying to figure out how to continue growing my real estate business in a high interest rate environment. All these different, that's why I think one of the reasons why we've been doing this long segment since the beginning of the year about creative finance is to try to give all of our listeners some tools and also ourselves some tools, because we learn stuff on this podcast every single time. So many people doing so many different things. Our last guest, Mr. Jelinek, I think it was Jelinek. Forgive me, Mr. Jelinek, if I butcher your last name. But the way he invests is very different than anybody I've ever talked to. And it's very interesting the way he's doing it without debt, short-term debt. But his goal is just to be, debt-free entirely, so he doesn't have to worry about the banks. And I learned tons and tons of stuff on this podcast and other podcasts. And we just got to figure out what that fire is for us and continue to feed it. Otherwise we'll burn out and we don't want it.
So this goes to my final point, really, which is, and that's a great kind of way you put it, which is, you said rock bottom. There's like not taking action or taking action lead to each direction leads to a different plateau. This is kind of how I got to thinking about it. So you take action, you get your first property, plateau. because what's next, right? And you're on a plateau right now. So how do you get out of that comfort zone? You lean into the discomfort and you figure out that next stair up to the next plateau. If you go down, you go, oh, well, I'll just do my W-2 and then I'm going to go home and watch TV and plateau down. You're then on that plateau. Now you might drop down a couple more, probably not. You're probably just going to stay comfortable. But it's that challenge to push yourself back up. Right. And that is where content comes in, like, you know, going on YouTube and like just watching some videos and saying, oh, well, yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. Hadn't thought of, maybe I do need to do a challenge. Maybe I need to go and sign up to a program for like coaching, or, you know, there's a couple of Jason Drees short-term sprint programs of like changing your mindset, rewiring your brain a little bit. Maybe you need to go and run a marathon. That kind of thing. They're almost, I feel like I need that. I need either a treat, like, oh, I'm going on vacation, great, or I got something hard to do. I need, like with running, I run best when I'm training for something. When I have an event 12 weeks away, I'm like, okay, let's go do this. Absolutely. When I'm running on my own, I'm like, I could quicken the pace, but just think of that coffee at the end of it, you know.
Exactly.
So that's kind of interesting. I think that plateau idea of up and down. That's kind of the interesting part. And I guess, Carl, you've kind of, I was going to say you were an average guy, which sounds like an insult, but you've been in that kind of W-2 driven life, is kind of work and family and vacation when you can. And I'm kind of there at the moment. Why is it most people don't break from that?
I think you've kind of already hit it, which is that comfort zone piece. You know, it's so easy to feel comfortable. And I think that's actually what a lot of people strive for. Nobody who wakes up and says, man, I'm striving to be uncomfortable today.
True.
You know what I mean? And so but in fact, you should, that's what you should. And of course,
that's
I'm talking
what I'm
out,
positing.
And that's why I'm talking out both sides of my mouth here, because I also like to be comfortable. Everybody does.
Same.
You know, that's literally the definition of comfort, is you're happy with where you're at. You can be comfortable and be completely unhappy. Trust me, it's a real thing, and you don't realize it, but you're probably unhappy because you're comfortable. So if you're really looking back over your life and or take an assessment of what your life is like right now, and you're comfortable but you're unhappy, then you shouldn't be comfortable anymore. That's literally what you have to change at that point. You need to find something that challenges you and makes you, maybe something that keeps you up a little bit at night, you know, because by the time whatever that problem is that you're trying to think through gets solved, then you're going to get that shot of adrenaline. The dopamine's going to start running. You're like, hey, I can do this. And you're going to do more. But if you just sit there and work your W-2 and you're like, all right, I feel like I'm just waiting to die, it's not a way to live. It's not living at all. You know, you got to get out there and you got to challenge yourself. And not only that, but figure out ways to impact the environment around you, you know, in a positive way. And whether that's some sort of a volunteer activity, it really does help fill the soul. And, you know, do something good for other people. One of the things that I've liked doing, and I'm not lost on the fact that I'm lucky to be in the position to be able to do this. I like to pay for people's dinners just randomly, you know, like my wife and I, you know, we'll go out to dinner and we'll just kind of eeny, meeny, miny, moe it to a table, and we'll call the waitress over and say, all right, just, you know, we're ready to leave, put that person's tab on our bill. We'll pay for it and we'll leave. And it just makes us feel good, you know, and I know not everybody can do that. And I respect that and understand it. You don't have to do that. But it's just an example of you're not trying to solve all the world's problems here, right? But just do these little tiny things that not only make you feel good, but also make somebody else feel good at the same time. And it really does kind of fill your cup back up.
I'm going to sub unhappy with uncomfortable, or maybe the other way around. So like people live like they're like, they want more. They feel or unfulfilled. It's probably a better word. So people are unfulfilled. And it's like, what gives you fulfillment now? Is it money? For most people, actually, if you read and watch a lot of videos, and I was watching one of the core Wall Street guys from decades ago, and his thing was like, he thought it was money, and it wasn't. It was giving back and giving money and building programs. And I think Tony Robbins says the same.
Yeah.
He does the whole meals thing, millions of meals for people around the world, actually. And so that's really interesting. So that obviously comes through kind of building this life you want,
Yeah.
which is super interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
I would even kind of say, I hate to beat a dead horse here, because we've talked about your why so many times on this show. And I think it's worth talking about, just because it's such an important piece of who you are and why you're doing things. And I think for 7 out of 10 people, you can probably narrow it down all the way down to, it's just your time. It's just whatever it is that most people are doing whatever they're doing because they think that they're going to get time. And a lot of times you don't, especially working a W-2, that time doesn't come until after you're 65 years old. And who knows what kind of shape your body's going to be in at that point, or your mind's going to be in at that point. You really need to start thinking about, if your goal in life is to do whatever the hell you want to do, whenever the hell you want to do it, it doesn't matter if you're 25 or 45 or 55 or whatever. You need to be already thinking about that and setting the goals to doing it, and making the uncomfortable decisions and the uncomfortable steps to get there now. Because you never know if you're ever going to even make it to 65 years old. It's such an awful thing to say, but it is absolutely true. If you don't figure out how to take control of your life now and get out of this cycle or rat race, I guess, then, I keep going back to Bronnie Ware's book, which is the 5 Regrets of the Dying. I think I've talked about that on this show before, but maybe not. But she went through all the different things that she was a hospice care nurse in Australia. Wrote this book because these are the compilations of everything that she asked dying people on their deathbeds. What is it that you wish you could do differently if you had your life to live over? And I'm not going to say all 5 of them. I'll leave that for the listeners to download this book. It's on Amazon. But I'll tell you what's not in there. And it's, I wish I had made more money. That is not one of the things that people say. I think you can get a lot out of studying what people are thinking when they're dying, to help you live a better life, because those people have been there and done that already. Whatever it is you're trying to do, there's people who have done it before, most likely, in most cases. And they can tell you what they regretted in their lives. And looking back on it, money is not a regret for people who are dying. And we need to figure out how to change that mindset that really is. It really is just the tool that allows you to have the time to do what you want with who you want to do it with. And I think that's a huge piece of it. We need to change the way that we think about money.
So I'm going to add one more bit. I said that was my final thing, but here is the final piece, which is, we are motivated by reward and a dopamine hit, and it's why social media is so attractive. It's why we like sugar. It's why we watch Netflix and play video games. What I'm positing is that's not the reward. The hard work is kind of the reward, but the hard work and what it leads to, that delayed reward, is the real prize. But we're kind of marketed to and conditioned and sold to that we should just have the micro rewards throughout.
Well, we live in a commercialized world where we are the assets. Isn't that that's so shitty?
Yeah, Facebook, right? You are the product.
You are the product. And I don't want to be a product anymore. I want to be a producer. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do. But literally every time you open up Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you are being marketed to spend money on something else to make somebody else rich. Well, you need to get on the other side of the cash register, and sitting there surfing Facebook isn't going to do it for you. And no, I'm with you. It's so commercialized, and everything out there is meant to take your attention away from things that will make your life better, because they are trying to advertise to you in order to make you spend money so that they can have the life that you're trying to get, so start to prioritize those things that you do in your free time.
It's funny you say that. So as I was figuring out my system and figuring out Trello, and I wanted to be better at note taking, not necessarily text notes, but like I'm planning a business at the moment, and I wanted to sketch it out a little bit more, map it essentially. So I was looking at the Kindle Scribe, and there's a Prime deal coming up, and I was looking at Remarkable, and it's this much, and then you need to buy the case and the pen and all this kind of stuff. And then I read some reviews on it, and it said the biggest problem with the device, the biggest problem with the Kindle is not a problem, but there's steps to get content from one device to your computer. I use my computer as essentially my second brain. There's a concept of a second brain. I was like, so all this stuff adds a layer. It makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to expedite. I'm trying to make it simple. So what I did was I bought an Apple Pen for my old iPad. I bought an Apple Pencil and have at it. I've scribbled pages and pages of notes. It cost me $80.
Nice.
And that's all I needed. And that's kind of, you know, and would a notepad have worked? Yes, except my handwriting is terrible enough to scan it. But so just taking that, like, I guess that's it. Like re kind of assessing and going, do I need to buy? Am I buying a device because I just want to buy a device and I want the feeling of potential from that device? Whereas the pencil, it works brilliantly.
Yeah,
I know. I could have removed that and just used a sketch pad, but
whiteboards.
As I said, yeah. I mean, whiteboards are great.
You need
my
whiteboards.
My Trello is like a whiteboard in my pocket. That's the only benefit.
Yeah.
Also, the other piece, and you spoke about social media. The other piece is the digital diet. So I used to read the news a bit. I had that mindset shift a couple of years ago to stop like worrying about the news, and now I just let it go.
Yeah,
there's nothing I can do about anything on Google News. The other one is really trying to not be on social media before midday.
Yeah,
it's almost like no caffeine, right? In the first 2 hours of your day, no social media.
Yep.
And it's liberating.
I do the same thing. I do it flip flop. I do caffeine until 11 a.m. and then after 11 a.m. I'm a coffee fiend, right? So
yeah, same. Yeah,
I switch over to decaf, and I don't notice a bit of difference. You can't do it? Is it? Why?
It's a lie. Decaf's a lie.
It's a lie. It is a lie. I'll agree with you on that, but it scratches that itch for me, and I'm still able to go to sleep and stay asleep at nighttime, so I stick with that.
Yeah, I have a hard cutoff at midday, pretty much. Maybe one. Yeah. I had a coffee at 2 the other day, and I was in bed like wired. I was like, that's not good. What's up with me? I'm like an old person. So cool. Well, that was my list, Kyle. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't, man. That was good. Good conversation.
Good conversation. And if you're listening and you made it all the way to the end, first of all, thank you.
Anybody still here?
Anyone still hello? Secondly, did you like this content? Is there any other topics you want us to kind of go and think about and discuss? Do you want to come on and discuss it? You can hit us up at investoriespodcast@gmail.com. Look, Kyle and I are really trying to figure out the best way to add value to our community. And we do feel like it's a community. We're growing. Our YouTube channel is growing. Please do go like and subscribe. It really does help us out and keeps our egos rolling forwards, right? But we're trying to be different. We're trying to differentiate in terms of who we are, what we do, the value we bring, and it is going to be value driven. We want it to be reciprocal. We're going to learn tons from guests. We're going to learn tons from people emailing us with questions that we probably never thought of. But yeah, we want to keep that value exchange going forward.
Love it. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, we'll be back to regular scheduled programming next week. Okay, that's good, Kyle.
Thank you for listening to the Investories podcast. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories podcast.